why don't we start by kind of just thanking ourselves? Sometimes we do things for self-care, and I would include coming here, that we don't recognize as self-care. By recognizing it as self-care, that's powerful. So give yourself a little thank you. You can kind of self-vibe, or just a gentle touch, or fist bump yourself, or whatever feels good. Like, why are you here? And normally I kind of hear three answers for self-care. You know, one is like, hey, I want to keep doing the work that I do because it's important. I want to be sustainable. The old put your own oxygen mask on first. You know, it's a cliche, but if we don't look after ourselves, we can't do our work. Second one, after other people. See, I know for me, self-care, there's levels of it. And even if I'm sort of reasonably okay, maybe I'm managing, you know, because I'm doing the meditation or whatever, I still might be being a bit of an asshole to my wife. Yeah. I still might be just being a bit off and not being as kind to Steve or the people I work with. And that's sort of the third reason for me for self-care is just also like, why do we need a reason for it? Why do I need to like justify it? Like it makes me more efficient or something like that. It's kind of weird way of thinking about it. Like, why not just for the sake of kindness to myself? Like no other explanation fucking needed. Let's justify that. So there's all the things, and sometimes the things work, sometimes they don't. I haven't got time to do all of them. So it's like, well, what is really necessary? Take a couple of moments, just take a couple of breaths. Let's come back to ourselves. Because for me, like tuning into my own needs is where self-care begins. And it's not about ticking off a list of things I'm supposed to do. Let's use one of the toolkit postures. It's kind of the most obvious one for this workshop, which is self-care pose. So it's basically give yourself a hug, relax the spine. One hand on the body, one hand on the shoulder. The poses we use actually are quite specific, which is why we train people in them. It's not this, for example. And how would you touch a friend? Are you touching yourself differently from that? If you were hugging a friend, someone you cared about. If it feels awkward, you can do it there. There's some variations. Maybe first of all, just notice if that's a familiar feeling with, maybe you don't literally hug yourself, but the feeling of embracing yourself with care. Is that, oh, I notice myself breathe a little deeper as it takes me a minute or two to tune into the feeling of it. And then I go, oh. The beautiful thing about these toolkit poses is you can then inquire and you'll get better answers. Your body will give you more than if we just try and think about it cognitively. So ask yourself, what's real self-care for me now? Real for me now. There's three parts of that matter. What's real self-care for me today? It might not be what you think. It might be the yoga class. I mean, I love going to yoga. Yoga's brilliant, at least once or twice a week. But it might not be. You can stay there if you want, or come out of it if you prefer. As you come out of it, you might notice a sort of like a sadness, a longing, where you might even notice a sort of relief, like, thank fuck, the self-care's over, Now I can get back to what I normally do. So kind of notice how you feel as you come out of it for myself. Yeah. So sometimes self-care is staying up late and talking to your wife. We can't self-care, actually. This is a sort of neo-capitalist evil plot to think the individual could solve all their problems. No, you can't. We intercare. Self-care has to be about our relationships, right? Our communities, our marriages, our friendships. It has to be. Some of you are writing down intercare, good buzzword. I have learned something. Yeah, but we can't not. Well, when I teach in Ukraine, we talk about, we have a little thing, try this if you want, self-care, intercare, or or we could also talk about co-regulation, right? Like self-regulation, co-regulation, eco-regulation, theo-regulation. Gonna do this like a fun, So those four kinds of regulation are all part of self-care, right? Don't be mean to my friend is what one of my friends says to me when I'm not self-caring very well. It's like i.e. don't be mean to yourself, right? It's like, don't abuse my friend. Self-kindness. If you can't manage self-kindness, go down the scale. The British version, self-politeness. Just don't be an arse to yourself, okay? like at least treat yourself civilly, with civility, and sort of going down that scale can make it kind of more doable if self-love feels like too big a thing. And we're not taught to value ourselves, right? We're not taught this. So this is something that you develop as a skill. If you're like, I can't do it, here's a move that I don't recommend. Don't abuse yourself with how bad you are at self-care. I'm a terrible person, I'm not self-caring. It's like, no, you've been caught in the matrix. That's the second level of it, yeah? So you need to be a bit forgiving. If, like me, you're human, like I developed a bit of a caffeine addiction while I was, people said, you should be perfect. You're a coach. And I was like, hang on a minute. I'm a human being too. This is decaf, I'm on the decaf now. I get to make mistakes. I get to be imperfect and then pull it back. Your sleep schedule goes out and then you find a way back. Like, that's more human. Just telling people to have good boundaries is ridiculous. It's like, you know this. You need to build the embodiment. Luckily, and we say this a lot in Embodied Toolkit, we have a pose for that. So you can do this sitting if you want, but I'll show it standing. Nice wide stance. So not like a warrior stance where you're lined up, but a nice wide stance. The front leg is bent. Hand is here, not here. And the fist is here. This needs to be a no or else, some kind of backup here, yeah? It's not, There's actually about 20 technical points when we teach this. Those of you who are coaches and want to teach others, make sure you do at least by the basic things we can show you how to do this. It's not quite as straightforward as it looks. Yeah, Steve's showing the side angle. Thank you, Steve. So take that position and notice again if it's familiar. Some of you are here, some of you are here, some of you are like here. I can see on the screen. And then say no in your first language, no. What do you need to say no to take care of yourself? Let's coach ourselves just for 2 minutes, coach yourself. Stay there. I'm just going to go to the screen to look at a few more of you. Stay there if you wouldn't mind. What do you need to say no to? What do you need to say no to in order to look after yourself? Could be someone else, could be part of yourself. What do you choose to say no to? Can we take it up a notch? Sometimes we say, I need to give up smoking, and then I don't feel a bit better just from giving some attention to this. There's sometimes a sadness in it, like, hey, I've been neglecting myself. Sometimes I'm almost with my body and I'm like, I'm sorry, mate. Like, forgive me. Where have I been? I'm sorry for leaving you alone.
I think so.
Yeah, okay, let's go to gallery view. You know what's so much easier to self-care? If people encourage you to. Like, as human beings, we generally sort of do what's expected and what's socially normal. And if you're in a social environment, physically or online, where it's like, hey, obviously you're going to self-care because you're worth it. I don't want to get too L'Oreal about this, but it's like, yeah, well, obviously, it really helps. So let's go to gallery view. Last thing, pick a few people in their squares, whether their camera's on or not, and just like subtly wish them well. And subtly just encourage them, like, you can do it. I know you might be feeling down or might be having a tough time, but you can do it. Giving them a little bit of encouragement and love. Somebody is picking you right now. You're someone right now. Someone is looking at you and going, that's my favorite kind of nose. I'm going to wish them self-love for the rest of the day.